Good morning, everyone. PatBenage here, the evolution coach, creator of the 6-Week Shift, The Inner Path, and author of this inspirational blog, SoulTalk. And welcome. Whether this is your first time seeing me or listening or reading my blog, or if it's the 170th time, which I've been doing this for a little over 170 weeks in a row. And really love this process. And it's interesting how all of this, what I'm doing here, what I do every week, fits into my own personal growth, my own personal evolution. And one of the things that came through to me this morning, and it's what I wanted to talk about today, is this idea of enlightenment and what it should look like. And what we view as enlightenment in others and in ourselves. So first of all, enlightenment to me it's more a process than it is a state. You can be in an enlightened state, but it's really this process of what I would more call self and God realization. But whatever you call it doesn't really matter. What is it that looks like to you? What does that mean to you? Whether you're looking at yourself and deciding how enlightened you might be, or if you're looking at someone else and wanting to see or determine if they're enlightened or not. I mean, if the message that you get from them, is that an enlightened message? Is that something that feels somehow at a higher level? And a lot of times what I've experienced, in looking out at observing what other people say or feel, or what it looks like to them, and also what it has appeared to be to me, enlightenment seems to be associated with sort of these big things, whether that's the ability to channel messages, whether it's looked at as some sort of extra ability that one has to interpret or to get messages from a higher source or from other people. We think of individuals who can tap into their connection with others to see things in other people that maybe that person doesn't see themselves. And we tend to see that as some aspect of enlightenment. We tend to see people that bring messages that seem at a higher level. We interpret them as having some higher degree of enlightenment. And we sort of look at these big things, big miracles, if we sort of think of enlightened people as being capable of something beyond the norm. And to a certain degree, I would tend to agree with that. However, my own experience is that, and what came through to me this morning, is that oftentimes we ignore the little things. that are sometimes a greater indication of this enlightenment process. It seems that we tend to discount those things that don't seem as important. They don't seem to be as significant in some way. And we discount those and we say, well, that's not enlightened. And mostly I'm talking about how we look at ourselves and we say, well, we're not very enlightened because we don't have this. We don't have this ability. We're not, people, a lot of people who are in this spiritual realm know about Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, and her connection with this group of, and it's in their definition, this group of, this collective of higher beings. And Esther is able to channel that, those messages. And so we sort of look at that as something special, something that's at a higher level, more enlightened, and we think of that as being enlightened to have that sort of ability. And I suspect that there might be something to that. However, if we expect enlightenment to look like that, or look like something similar to that, let's say Neale Donald Walsch, who was one of my favorite authors and was a big part of my early process. He wrote several books regarding his conversations with God. And whether you believe that was a direct communication with Source or not, doesn't matter. He was channeling or getting these messages that were certainly elevated and offered some very profound wisdom in them. But again, if we expect enlightenment to look like that, then we sort of discount all of the little things that happen every day in our own lives and are indications of our own enlightenment process. I suspect, I don't know for certain, but I suspect that true enlightenment, true self and God realization does not require or even utilize in any way anything outside of oneself. If I reach a state of my own self and God realization, then I'm not going to be channeling somebody else's messages, some other entity's messages. It won't be necessary. It wouldn't be at all enlightened of me to try to channel messages that come from somewhere else. I would be directly connected. I would be directly communicating, and from that place, that's where it would come from. I wouldn't be a channel. I'd simply be the message. I'd live it. That's, to me, what being at that highest level is about, that you live that all the time. But the process of enlightenment it unfolds in all of the little things every day, all of the little subtle expansions of awareness, all of the little very slight shifts in perspective that happen every day. You know, whenever you have a moment where you start to see things a little bit more clearly, you start to understand a little deeper your own self and life, that's enlightenment. That's the process. That's what's happening. And we tend to discount those things, and we tend to view ourselves on one level, no matter what occurs over time. And we're sort of the last person to notice that we've actually changed, that we've actually evolved, and that we're becoming more self-realized. And you know, I think we all as humans have a tendency to question our own level, our own state of beingness, our own wisdom. And it's natural to do that. And it's natural to question those things. And I think to a certain degree, that's a good thing. But don't discount where you actually do have progress. You are making progress. That you're seeing things more clearly. I think we have a tendency sometimes to, when we look at those things, then we look at the areas where we're not evolving, or we don't appear to be, that we're still making mistakes, that we're still having challenges and difficulties, and we rate ourselves based on those, rather than on the little slight unfoldings that are occurring every day, that are expanding our awareness, that are shifting our perspective, and we're seeing life in a different way. And so I think my message today is to embrace those little things that are evidence that you are in that process of enlightenment. You are in that process of self-realization. And don't expect big miracles to happen. Don't expect to have some, vision of source or some message come through to you from some divine, place. Not that it doesn't happen, but that's not what enlightenment's about. Messages come all the time from all kinds of ways. And when we notice those things, when we notice little things in life that change our perspective, that's enlightenment. That's all, man, that's the aha moment. And you're making progress. And embrace those. Give yourself credit for the advancement that you're achieving every day. Last week we talked about advancing and retreating, and we're advancing all the time. But it's done in little steps. It's done one little bit at a time, just bit by bit. We unfold, and we don't give ourselves credit. And I want to say, give yourself credit. You've come a long way. If you take a look at your life and you go back, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, look at where you are now based on that. For some of us, it might be 5 days, it might be 5 months. We can see it happening, but it doesn't happen all at once. You don't go from one step on the ladder to the next, and one day just be there. You don't graduate like that. It's not the same as, You know, the graduation process is very gradual. It's like you're taking, for each step on the ladder, you're taking about 1,000 steps. That all of a sudden you find yourself in a new place. But even at that, you're still in the process of moving toward the next one. And in reality, every step is just this little tiny advancement, this little tiny shift. But we go through millions and millions of those in a lifetime. And so embrace those, love those, appreciate all of those little things that have made you into a more enlightened being, a more enlightened person. Because who you really are is already all of that. It's just this alignment process of allowing that to come through you, to emerge. But we emerge a little bit at a time. And I don't want to get too redundant in this, but I want you to really take a look at how your life has changed the last 6 months, the last year, the last 4 or 5 years. How has it changed? How has your view of life changed? Is it moving forward? Is it expanding? And I suspect that you can find areas where it's expanding and where it's contracting as well. And those areas where it's contracting, look at what is it you're giving your attention to. Are you giving more credence to those things that have been your challenges, that where you still have things that you don't like? Or are you embracing things that where you have made progress, where you're moving forward, where you can see the change happening? If you're focusing too much on those challenges, those things where you haven't gotten where you'd like to be, then chances are your experience is not expanding very much. And you need to start embracing those areas where you are seeing these shifts, these subtle expanses in your awareness. And that will, as I've always said, wherever you place your attention, that's what grows. That's what you get more of, because that's your power. So when you do that, then all of a sudden, everything starts to expand. All of it you start to advance much more rapidly, and then you can really see it happening. But embrace those little things. I can't tell you how valuable that is. You have to experience it for yourself. But that's what living from the inside out is all about. Life from the inside out. See the subtle changes that happen within that shift your perspective, that expand your awareness of life. Give those your attention and they'll grow. They'll grow. So thanks for being here again. And we'll see you next week. As always, live your life from the inside out.